welcome everybody to our SHeconomy this time. And I'm very pleased to have an English-speaking guest again with a very nice topic. Jackie Waring is a pioneer of women's angels, changing the face of angel investing, bringing more women angels into Scotland's dynamic angel investments community. An active and experienced angel investor herself, she established and leads Scotland's all-female angel group, investing women angels whose members have invested over 80% of all their funds in highly innovative female founders, co-founded companies. I think this is, something in Germany we could learn some from you, because, this is to find funding for females is very difficult. And I hope we learn some insight from you, how you go about it in Scotland. Jackie is an entrepreneur with a passion for helping other entrepreneurs. It was this passion which inspired her to establish AccelerateHER, creating a channel and direct help for female founders going for scale. Publicly recognized by Scotland's First Minister, she is a major player in shaping the ScotCanDo economics ecosystem. The AccelerateHER Award, workshop, mentoring, and other support are achieving tangible impact, boosting the volume of an investment in Scotland's female-led companies. She has also nurtured strong international partnerships, leading to regular AccelerateHER missions to Silicon Valley, Dubai, Germany, and more recently to Boston and New York in partnership with Founders Forum. Jackie has previously run 3 companies, including 10 years CEO of a business economic development organization in Scotland. She has been an external policy advisor to the UK government, leading on access to finance or women entrepreneurs agenda. Jackie was also the first UK advisory board member for the Washington, DC based Global Banking Alliance for Women. So, wow. Jackie, the floor is yours. You said you're going to talk about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we enter a discussion and see what we can learn. And maybe if we can have ideas and develop a new startup project from here on. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you ever so much, Ilka. And that was a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. I'm afraid I will be touching on some of those things during my talk, but it's just to explain where we are. But, first of all, let me say good morning. Well, actually now afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen that are joining from Germany and also from Scotland. It's such a pleasure to have been invited to speak today. I know that this network that Ilka has set up is a really amazing network of inspirational women who've achieved great things on their journeys. So I really do believe this is a privilege to be speaking to you today. So thank you for that. And I think it's fantastic what you've created here, Ilka, as well, because so much is about visibility for women in business, and particularly so for female founders innovating, and I'll come back to that. But anyhow, so what I really wanted to do today was actually start with a quote from another inspirational woman who I really admire, and that's Michelle Obama. So here's the quote: "No country can ever truly flourish if it stifles the potential of its women and deprives itself of the contribution of half its citizens." Now, I love this quote, not only because it's so true, but also because it absolutely highlights how critical women's full economic equality is to global prosperity. And in my experience, a country's recognition of this is the most effective route to positive change. And I saw this most clearly about 7 years ago, when, thanks to an amazing invitation from the Clinton Global Initiative, I found myself in a room in Amman in Jordan, alongside an otherwise entirely male panel, all of us supporting the most wonderful Jordanian female founders in their journeys to grow their companies. And boy, were they wonderful founders. They really were amazing. What I particularly remember is the CEO of, at that point, Jordan's largest IT company, so strongly advocating for these women and supporting them, really supporting them. And actually, much to everybody's surprise, there was a competition element to this whole program. he, without any prior announcement, actually landed up putting a very large amount of his own money behind some of these founders that were there on this programme. And actions speak louder than words, and it was a very strong message, and he was deliberately doing that, I think, to send a message to all the people in the room, which included many from the top people in the private sector, but also top government. So I think that this gentleman had actually recognised just how important this change was in Jordan, not only to the country's economy, but also to the health of their society as well. And, translating that back for us here in Scotland and in Germany, obviously the challenges which we face as female founders in Scotland and Germany are not as extreme. Our countries are doing much to support women's full economic participation. But the issues really are often quite subtle. And nevertheless, we all still have a long way to go to achieving that economic parity. So, investing women angels and Accelerate Her, if you like, this is my and my wonderful team's contribution to making change happen. We're all about passion. Our vibrant network of both women angel investors and female founders, we all share this passion to accelerate the growth, the visibility, and the backing of talented female founders and leaders. So I hope that by sharing my story and my why I do what I do, by sharing that with you will help explain not only what fueled this passion, but also to help show, I guess, how every single one of us has the capacity to make change happen when we really want to. So let me start back in 1990, and I'm showing my age now, when at 25, I became the youngest CEO in the UK's network of economic development and enterprise agencies. Now, I was in this role for 10 years, and it was such an exciting 10 years. I can't begin to tell you just how great it was, but basically, to this day, I will never forget actually just how lucky and privileged I was to have been given that chance, because I was young and green, and I learned on the job really, and I was just so lucky to have had the most entrepreneurial board giving me that opportunity. And I now see that the board that I had in that organisation have really influenced my thinking going forward in business. This board was made up of some of the biggest names in business in our part of Scotland, and they were leading entrepreneurs themselves. They were there genuinely because they wanted to do something for their business community. And they loved, the more ambitious ideas were, the more they wanted to do them. And for sure, that has been my inspiration and has created the can-do attitude that I've taken with me throughout the rest of my working career. So I learned my trade there and developed as a leader as well, which involved two things really. I went and internationally participated in a master's in corporate leadership, and that influenced my thinking greatly as well. And in fact, I took back a very ambitious plan to the board to set up something also international, but from Scotland, for managing directors and chief executives throughout the country. And the board, of course, loving ambitious ideas. It was highly risky for us to do, but we did it. And that was so successful that we won an award for that programme. And I had the pleasure and honour really of being presented by our then First Minister, in fact, the first Minister really of Scotland, with an award for that programme because of what it generated, basically. So over my 10 years at that organisation, I worked with thousands of small and medium-sized companies and also big corporates as well. But what we were doing to help was for the small and medium-sized companies. And we noticed very different growth patterns amongst companies that have been set up by men versus companies that have been set up by women. We saw the same levels of startup. It was very even, about the same number being established by women as men, but not the same growth patterns. And this was really frustrating because there were no obvious reasons why that should be. So I initiated a piece of research that went across the whole of Scotland. We had a number of partners involved, and we actually interviewed face-to-face 500 female founders, which was no small undertaking. And that involved female founders who just had ideas about going into business from early stages, to women who were just starting to grow their companies, to some female founders who'd actually already created internationally successful companies. And what came back in terms of the barriers to growth was a loud and clear message that access to finance was the #1 barrier. And that's quite it sounds simple, but it's quite complicated actually, because for access to finance, put the emphasis on the word access, not about availability. Apart from times of financial crisis, availability of funds is generally there for any good proposition, good business proposition. It's there somewhere. But if you don't know, and you haven't had the experience, and you haven't had access to the knowledge, and very importantly, the kinds of networks that would be giving both the knowledge and the introductions, then you simply aren't able to access that finance. And that really was what lay behind these issues, which are still present today, but definitely we're tackling them, or starting to at least. So this is really when the seeds were sown for me with the concept of investing women angels and AccelerateHER, although it was a little time after that before they were created. So just a little bit about the journey that took me and our organizations from then to now. I took that passion for supporting female founders into my next role, which was managing director of a spin-out company. And this was a bigger organization, and I actually spent 3 very, very tough years successfully turning around that business, but with not enough time and capacity to pursue that passion. However, it was rich learning ground. I learned a lot about culture in that role, and I've used that very fruitfully in business ever since. But I didn't get the opportunity to really satisfy that need that I had to do more for female founders until I launched my own business back in 2003. Now, at that point, I unexpectedly was invited to tender for a UK government contract, which I won the tender along with, I was part of a team of 5 throughout the UK. And we were all contracted in through our own companies as external policy advisors to the UK government to look at how we would increase the level of female entrepreneurship in the UK. So ultimately, I specialised and actually led the UK's agenda on access to finance for women entrepreneurs. So we were looking at the issues and the barriers, and I had a stakeholder group that I established in London, and these were very senior people from finance community, mostly at CEO level or something close to that. And the work was really exciting that we did. We fed into the 2007 budget, and actually some of our recommendations were used in the budget, where there was a fund for female founders created, an equity fund. And that was really good news. It was the first of its kind, and it was the start of change. It wasn't nearly enough, but at least it was a start. And it was on the back of this kind of work that I was invited to join the advisory board for the Global Banking Alliance for Women. And as Ilka mentioned, that was based in Washington, DC. And this was really exciting because I've just got access to a global picture on what was happening here. And that really fueled my passion. And I landed up just independently taking myself to the US quite a lot, actually. And I, again, had a really exciting opportunity. I took part in the very first Springboard program in Washington, DC. Now, you may not have heard of Springboard, but this was actually probably really the birth of very exciting activity in the UK that has led to a huge number, actually, of female angel groups right across the USA, and you can really trace it back to that work that happened in Washington. And over the years, I knew that the USA was ahead of really all of us, actually, in terms of that activity amongst female investors, not so much at VC level, we've heard a lot about that, but at angel level, very, very active. And over the years, we've got some great friends and partners in the US, and there's very clear evidence that is well known now, well researched now, of something called the echo effect. So basically, if you increase the level of female angels and investors, a parallel line of growth in the level of female-founded companies successfully accessing investment. So that sounds like it's just women investing in women, but actually it's something much more than that. It's about creating an ecosystem, and it's that ecosystem that encourages more women to go for it. They can see women that look like them, that they can identify with, that have succeeded. It's about inspiration, and it's about having access to a network and having access to mentors and role models that can help you. And it's also about influencing other angel groups and other investors as to why are you not investing in more female founders. So this really inspired me to look deeper here in Scotland. I'd already had access to whatever data and research was out there, not enough actually, but what was out there in terms of the statistics in Scotland. And what many people don't know is that Scotland has got a hugely dynamic angel community. In fact, we've got the longest established angel community globally. One of the groups called Archangel here in Scotland was the very first investment group, angel investment group anywhere in the world. And since they established, there's been quite a sophisticated industry here, where there are, we're a small country, but we have, at the point that I did my research, it was 1,200 registered business angels in groups, many more acting independently, but within groups. That has mushroomed since then. So per head of population, we actually invest more per capita in Scotland through angel investment than any other country in the world. A lot of that has been really boosted by a very favourable tax environment here in the UK, which I know is the envy of most other countries, which does really help facilitate that. But it's a very well structured industry. So from the outside, the perceptions were, well, from the inside rather, I guess, more than the outside, maybe the outside as well, the perceptions were that this was a great industry in Scotland. There were no issues. It was working really well. Companies were getting investment. It was great. But when you looked at the statistics, only 2% of that angel community was female, which is woefully low. And you can imagine that, women who weren't getting access to the networks by default had no previous experience in angel investment, and also those who were working with wealth advisors, financial advisors, were getting no encouragement to look at angel investment as an asset class to build their own portfolios. This just wasn't happening. So it was no surprise there were so few women. And you can also imagine the challenges that I faced coming in as a total outsider to this community and challenging that status quo in what appeared to be a successful community. I wasn't always welcomed. And I can see that this has certainly not been an easy journey getting to where we are today. But, echoing Michelle Obama's sentiments, how could we possibly continue to ignore the potential of 50% of this possible community? Not only were we limiting the new money, which is clearly important for the companies getting the investment, but we're also limiting industry expertise, access to networks, international connections, and much more besides of 50% of our potential community. So I just could not let that go on. And in 2014, out of sheer frustration, I stubbornly decided to just make change happen. And that's what led to me creating both Investing Women Angels and AccelerateHER. And, looking at any differences there and, what we may have done a little bit differently from others, perhaps what was different about this approach was seeing the business opportunity and economy as the key drivers, with equality as the outcome, because efforts before had been the other way around, and definitely incorrectly, but not having the same outcomes is what I observed. And I had learned over the years, and engaging with governments in other countries as well, that once governments understand the economic potential that's being limited, that is actually the key to unlocking budgets. So, the economy and business is the driver. Now, I'm delighted to say that we have wonderful support from Scottish Government here in Scotland for female founders, helping to back their growth, scale, investment and internationalisation, which is actually a key priority in our government's very current 10-year economic transformation strategy. And that also applies to our lead economic development agency, Scottish Enterprise, who, thanks to both Scottish Government and Scottish Enterprise and their international arm, the Scottish Development International, we already have a strong and growing partnership here in Germany, working with the wonderful Alexandra Steen. I'm not sure if Alexandra's managed to join us today, but hello if you are out there, Alexandra. And she's the Scottish Government's director in Berlin, and also the brilliant Scottish Development International team throughout Germany. And I know that Janina's with us, so hello, Janina. And I'm not sure, I can't see at the moment who else, but apologies if you're there, folks. They've been a pleasure to work with. And now, of course, we're connected with Ilka and the team at British Chambers of Commerce in Germany. We've also connected, thanks to the people I've just mentioned, with wider development agencies in Germany. So this is wonderful. There's so much going on. And these connections are absolutely vital, helping us to help Scottish female founders connect internationally, find new business and investment opportunities, and just encouraging more business between Scotland and Germany. And I guess what has also been different about our strategy and approach has been recognising the need to tackle both the supply and the demand sides of helping more female founders. So what I mean by that is increasing both the supply of investment, bringing new women in there, but also increasing the know-how, the investment readiness, and the connections for the female founders to help them get there. So that's why I established both Investing Women Angels as a female angel group to help increase investment from women, but also AccelerateHER to help female founders be visible, to help them scale, to help them gain investment and internationalize. And of course, we don't do this alone. I've already mentioned our partners, Scottish Government, Scottish Enterprise, SDI, and multiple private sector companies come with us on this journey. Our team is extremely talented and hugely efficient, but you can't tackle change on that level without lots of partnerships. So that's how we do it. So in terms of the impact and what we've achieved so far, well, I'm happy to announce that we've now invested over 2 million. That's just our angels alone. That has leveraged many, many multiples of that figure, going into over 20 highly innovative companies. And Ilka mentioned over 80% of our investment has gone into female-founded companies. Well, I'm really delighted to tell you that that percentage is now up to 90%. So we're extremely proud of that. Obviously, that's a very different statistic from the norm out there, and we're trying to influence others to get there on that too. We've also enabled over £36 million of investment going into the winners of our AccelerateHER Awards, which to date have only been in Scotland. So this is not a huge number of companies. And thanks to our partnership now with Barclays Eagle Labs, so that's part of Barclays Bank, we are just about to go UK-wide with the awards. And we expect to see a 10-fold increase here at least in those kinds of figures because we're just about to scale ourselves. So to date, still to date, and this will also get much bigger, almost 5,000 female founders in our community have accessed support. So that's from workshops to being mentored and coached by actual investors, to international missions, to the awards, and much more besides. And our digital mission to Germany and DACH region in December this year will actually be our 9th mission, with a 10th planned to go back to California, where we've been twice already, both times in person. This one will still be digital in February 2022. But by Q2 next year, we anticipate more in-person activity on the missions again. But by the time we've done the mission in February, we estimate that over 100 female-founded companies will have benefited from taking part in this, the market building opportunities they're accessing, and the investment connections that they're making internationally. So, just to, that is actually my journey so far. And it's the story of Investing Women Angels and AccelerateHER. All of it driven by a mission to make change happen. And we are. And we're only a small team, but all of us can have impact, no matter how small we think we are. And just to emphasize that, I'm ending on a quote from another woman I really admire, who I had the privilege of briefly working with, the sadly missed Anita Roddick of The Body Shop. So here's Anita's quote: "If you think you're too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito in the room." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of my presentation, but I would be absolutely thrilled to enter into chat and discussion with anyone that might have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for your interest. We will share the information and the link where you can find more information on AccelerateHER. And Jackie, maybe we can share your email if somebody wants to address you directly. Sure. We will keep you posted on the Scottish mission to Germany. And so far, everybody have a wonderful weekend. And thanks to our sponsor, Philip Morris, who it really makes us possible that we can have these high-level exchanges here once a month and support women in all kinds of businesses. Thank you so much and have a great weekend. Thank you, Jackie. Bye-bye.
A pleasure. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.